Artificial intelligence and the impact on our lives has so far been in the realm of sci-fi movies. But a test launch of a new AI or artificial intelligence chat service about 2 months ago has made that future seem a lot closer. ChatGPT is the new rage and something everyone is talking about. But what is it? It's essentially a chatbot that is much more sophisticated than the ones you may have encountered right now while dealing with services. Think of it as a Google search, something like that, but with a human touch. It answers pretty much any question in a few seconds. Not just that, it can write you a song, a poem, an essay, absolutely anything with infinite number of variations. And the more questions you ask, the more personalized are the answers. Now, instead of me going on and on about this, we thought we'll do a little demonstration for you today on the show. So I'm going to ask them to just put up my screen, and I have the ChatGPT site open. So what's important to remember is that this is not an app. If you're seeing apps on, Play stores asking you to pay money and download, that's not what this product is. It's a free product. You have to go to chat.openai.com. OpenAI is the company which has launched this product called ChatGPT. So this is what it looks like, and it's giving you examples of what it can do, capabilities, limitations. So let's test it out. Let's ask it a question. So, for example, if I say, write me a song about monsoons in Mumbai. Let's see what happens. So ChatGPT has hit the headlines because of its, really different kind of a knack of interacting with people. So now you see, it took a few seconds, and now it's writing me a whole song about monsoons in Mumbai. There's a verse one, there's a chorus. It can go on and on. I can stop generating at any point. And it's written me this entire song with lyrics live in front of you. This is not something that we've done before. We're doing this in real time and live. So it's this kind of stuff which has really blown everyone's mind. And it's being used in various ways. There are also concerns about it because people are using it, students are using it to generate their essays and assignments within seconds, and that's concerning for teachers and for academics. Let's look at another example. Give me a write-up on Gandhiji. So it has become a cause for concern, along with being a kind of a master tool or a new kind of a software that people are still figuring out what to do with. Look at the speed. Within seconds of me writing that question, this has come out. Now, what's interesting is it can give me infinite options of this. So if I don't like this particular write-up, I can just ask for another version and another version till it goes on and on. The answers will depend on my prompt words, and it will start changing according to what I want to hear as well. So let's talk a bit about this, even as my write-up gets ready in the matter of minutes. I have with me today on the show Nikhil Pahwa, founder of Medianama and digital rights activist, Meetasengupta, education strategy and policy advisor, Lloyd Matthias, technology executive, and Prashant Roy, public policy and technology analyst. By the way, if you want to write into us and ask us for more options of any questions you like, we're happy to do this live demonstration on TV. I don't know if that's done before, but we wanted to sort of show what it really does instead of just describing it. Nikhil, let me start with you. I'm sure you've been glued onto ChatGPT for the last few days, figuring out everything it can do. Is this the new wonder in technology, or is it a matter of concern?
Thanks, Aman. I've been using it for a couple of weeks now. In fact, just used it a couple of hours ago as well. It's just great fun. I've asked you to write poems. For example, I asked you to write a version of the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock by Eliot set in the 21st century. I asked it to write Monty Python scripts, and I love playing with policy. So I asked it to write the principles of what a data protection bill in India should be like. So look, it's fun, it's useful, it has significant business use cases also. I know someone who's using it to draft legal contracts, because lawyers do a lot of copy paste from one contract to the other.
Right.
So at one level, it makes us more efficient. At another level, it removes redundancy from the work that we do. So if you looked at, let's say, the first phase of the internet where it removed memory as a requirement, in the sense you could search for things and the internet would serve you answers or give you potential answers. ChatGPT essentially is one part of AI that helps you remove the need to craft or create something, because it's already processing so much information about the query that you've asked that it generates an answer for you. So this is now essentially a great user interface for what the world now has in terms of generative AI. And I think it's great. It's just going to make us more efficient. It's going to make certain jobs redundant. It's going to create a need for people to upskill and improve what they do. I don't think it's going to take humans out of the game.
I'm not so sure about it. And I'm sorry I'm doing this while we're doing the show, because I have just been flipping at all of its different uses. So write me a limerick on Mumbai traffic. And it just keeps giving this to me in seconds and seconds. Let's show the screen once again with that new prompt coming up. I've just asked for a limerick on Mumbai traffic.
I half thought you would ask it to write you a horror story based on Mumbai traffic.
We can do that as well. And as many options as I want. Meetasengupta, the first reaction which has really come in sort of a real world kind of situation is educational institutions saying that you can't use ChatGPT to write your tests or complete your assignments. It's becoming a bit of cheat GPT, if I may. Because you can do this in seconds, right?
Absolutely. You can do this in seconds. You can submit assignments in seconds. You can create your notes in seconds, and that's going to save you a lot of labor. It does a lot of the curation work for you. Teachers can create the notes that they hand out to classes in seconds. But the question is this going to be good enough quality? So there's a Wharton professor who generated a set of answers for their operations management assignment, and they said, I would rate it a B or a B minus. So it does not achieve excellence yet. There are a lot of things that it cannot do. There are a lot of things that it can do. And as Nikhil rightly pointed out, it can take the drudgery out of a lot of the work that we do. It makes it more efficient, but it does not yet make it human. There are so many things that are important to us as humans. I've actually had another set of teachers saying, why don't we just ban it in classrooms and everybody comes into and writes their exams by hand, or insist that they write their assignments by hand, or given their answers in classwork tests by hand. Sure, you can ban the future, but you cannot refuse the future. You can ban it in your classroom. The minute a student enters the job world, if they're only trained in rote learning or in curation, which is the memory part and now the curation part, they will be lost. So we have to acknowledge the future. And the future means that we have to go above and beyond the capabilities of this AI. And this is ChatGPT 3, you'll have 4, you'll have 5, you'll have 40, you'll have better and better imagination.
So that's my point. This has been around just for 2 months, and it's a bit glitchy. Sometimes it says that, there's too much traffic and you need to come back. It's free right now. It only has events up till 2021, which is what its servers can hold. So this is a very nascent version. Lloyd Matthias, why has this taken the world by storm? Because there are people right now sitting and thinking up ways to use this. We're at that space in technological evolution where we don't identify a problem and then find a solution. You first find the software or the breakthrough and then figure out how to use it. That's what's happening with ChatGPT, isn't it?
Absolutely, Tamanna. I think the excitement right now is the whole newness of the fact that suddenly people are beginning to really realize the interactivity of AI in a manner of speaking. This is like the next generation of translating AI in a consumer interface, which has been around for a while. I think on the positive side, as both Nikhil and Meetasengupta said, I think it can make a lot of things easy. And the good news is that as more and more people get on to using AI operating on a regular basis, it'll only get smarter. The responses will be far more real, they'll be far more intuitive, they'll be a lot more human-like, which is the positive part. I think the concern that we have as we go forward is the fact that a lot of this artificial intelligence is actually programmed by humans. And over time, it's actually the kind of algorithms and the kind of background thinking that goes into it that can make it a little tricky. Right now, it's purely, let's say, technologists with hopefully no great biases that are actually putting things out. But I think over time, when any technology gets massified and you're going to have a lot more users, I think there could be the danger of a lot of the algorithmic responses, a lot of the thinking that can get moved in a certain direction. And that can be a little worrying. Right now, it's absolutely positive. I think it can help. As was said, it can take the drudgery out of a lot of mundane tasks. It can improve customer service. It can make response more real life. But I think the dangers of misuse is what we should look at in a couple of years' horizon.
I don't know if we want human creativity and ability replaced to this extent. Prashanto, how do you look at this? ChatGPT, what it can do, and do we need it?
Well, we've had AI with us for quite a while. And when you do Google search, etc., there is a lot of AI and predictive behavior which already goes in there. And some of it starts from very basic things like figuring out what you mean in a particular word, in a context. It may mean different things in different geographies when people are typing, and AI is actually used for that. I think it was a matter of time before it progresses to the level where generative AI, as it's called, which generates stuff. In this case, it's basically text generative AI. It becomes accessible to the public. And, you can debate about good and bad, but look at it this way. When Google search happened, this whole thing of assignments being, Googled and people writing PhD thesis based on Googling necessitated plagiarism checks as an essential part of checking assignments today for teachers. Okay. Now, right now, they still can't do that with ChatGPT in the sense they don't have a plagiarism check. But ChatGPT, to address this issue, will have to address this problem. Okay, and it's doable. I mean, ChatGPT itself, if it is within the constrained environment of ChatGPT itself, with or without APIs which connect to other software and so on, the fact is that they can put in a system which at least records what ChatGPT itself has generated. Okay, there will be privacy issues there, etc. They'll have to address those. But you should be able to have a paid service which asks, was this text generated by ChatGPT, yes or no? So you'll have to address those kind of things.
So you first created, let me just understand, you first created ChatGPT, then you need another software to figure out if people are actually using ChatGPT. And then you decide how to use ChatGPT. Do we need this in our lives? Is my question.
Yeah, so I think you would have asked the same thing about Google search, and people did. Do we need it? And because there's so many things people are doing with it, which is short-circuiting stuff and encouraging plagiarism. But like I said, you have to have plagiarism check, and you could ask that why do we need search and then plagiarism check on top of search? So this is absolutely, you can't stop this. It's going to go ahead and disrupt a lot of, like Nikhil was saying, a lot of baseline stuff. I'm using it a fair bit for basic level drafting, including of legal kind of documents. And it's not perfect, but it gets me up to a head start where it knocks off 50% of my work. And then I sit and I, figure it out.
Is it going to replace people you need to do that work, Prashanto?
I'm sorry?
Is it going to replace the need to hire people who do that work? I'm going to ask that question to Nikhil as well, because you run a media organization.
Yes.
Is it going to replace the need of that many copy editors? So that question first to Prashanto.
Yes, it's going to replace the very entry-level part of the work. And I think what we've seen, if you look at, for example, our IT services thing, we started fairly low level with a lot of back office stuff, etc. Those we moved up the value chain, those went off to other geographies, or they got replaced by AI. So a lot of voice response answering systems, when you call helplines in companies, now that's automated. AI has taken over there. And yes, that has replaced people, but those people have to upskill. Not all of them can upskill. So this is inexorable kind of progress of technology. It's happened in manufacturing as well. There's a lot of automation which replaces lower end work. And unless you can upskill them or figure out what to do with them, well, I mean, there is a problem that you have to deal with.
Yeah, Nikhil, I'm going to ask you that question.
Yeah.
Is it going to replace the need for people to do those basic jobs, like a basic draft, a basic news report in your case?
So Tamanna, I had this conversation with a friend just yesterday. And if you look at it from a media organization perspective, it can't replace reporters who are reporting on something yet, right? So even in old school media organizations, you've got beat reporters and who maybe can't write very well, but they're good at reporting. And then the editing desk basically puts the text together. So the same thing's going to happen here, where you can basically get a beat reporter to give, it might replace the editing desk or the sub-editor, but the information still has to come from the reporter on the ground. The other thing is that, you can use it for generating videos. So let's say you can go to a ChatGPT and say that, can you generate a script based on so-and-so thing? And then you can connect that to an AI-based video generation platform, which can create a short video, and an audio AI platform. Let's say you can say, to say that use Amitabh Bachchan's voice in that, then they can generate a voiceover in Amitabh Bachchan's voice for the same thing. So these are all things that are possible. You can even use images, like you can use Morgan Freeman's image and you can use Shah Rukh Khan's voice with him, and the lip sync will also be AI generated. So you can do a lot of crazy fun things with it, which is why, in fact, in some cases, there are actors that are now licensing their profiles and their imagery post-death, because they might be shown in movies post-death, as playing a role. So, I mean, with AI, the world is open for how it can be used in the future. I would just say that I think it might replace even basic decision making. So, for example, if today I tell my Google Home or my Alexa to block my calendar for 2 hours at so and so time, it automatically knows which calendar is synced. It blocks time. It knows which date. So those basic functions which we would do physically, now we can do it using our voice. That's also AI in the background. It takes memory out of the picture.
Yeah.
I actually think
Nikhil, I was just thinking about the point about memory out of the picture. How many phone numbers do we remember now?
Exactly. But, Tamanna, one little thing about schools. I think schools should encourage children to use ChatGPT more and more, because effectively, they'll also have to judge whether the output is what they want and how they can improve on the output. So it takes a part of the work out. It actually helps them, instead of trying to remember stuff, it helps them use their brains a little bit more. And there are software already, like Google is planning to roll out updates on search, which will perhaps, because they're expecting a vast amount of SEO pages with pre-generated text to be created using AI, it's planning to take AI-generated text out of prioritization in search results. So when there is abuse on one side, there is going to be a correction on the other. In the same sense, I think we will expect technology that is creating perhaps a problem of people maybe cheating or not doing their homework properly.
I don't know. My concern is, are they going to be using their brains? If, essay writing and composition writing was tedious in school, but it taught us the basics of grammar and how to compose sentences and paragraphs.
But if software can create the basics of grammar and sentence and paragraph, why do you need to do it? The software can do it. It performs the function, right?
I don't know.
Let the software do it.
Meetasengupta, do you agree with that? What do you teach in school?
What do you teach in school? You teach higher order thinking skills that are beyond the HOTS that we've been teaching so far. You ask students to decide, for example, was this ChatGPT generated poem a good poem or a bad poem, and why it was a good poem or a bad poem? Or you say, do you think, here's another question, and I have a structure for this also. Do you think if we thought of elephants as pink fluffy creatures, we would be able to generate more money for elephant conservation? Because we can now in the metaverse and with all the software tools that Nikhil was just talking about, create images and create this emotion of elephants who need to be conserved, or bees that are essential to our survival. Can we create a different mental image so that we have better fundraising for them, or we have better things for them? How do students tackle these questions? ChatGPT can't tackle that question. I can see you typing that in already, Tamanna, but it can't answer that question to a higher order quality. It can't generate art that makes us cry instantly. So does it create resonance? And here is a structure that I have for teachers today. It may not last till ChatGPT 3.15 or something like that. But today, if you ask questions at the cusp of emotions, ethics, and empathy, you will generate so much wonderful higher order thinking in the classroom.
I agree. It needs to go the next step. But do human beings need to lose basic skills? I want to get Prashanto into this. Prashanto, where do that's the question. Basic skills. Do we now need an AI to compose a text for us? People are using it on apps like Tinder to compose a good profile for themselves. For example, the many things it's being used for. How do you know if this is a real person or not? If they can't think of 2 sentences to write about themselves? Or is that going to be redundant?
So that's of course a problem. But I think if you start from the school part, you'll find, today you've got very cheap calculators for 300-400 rupees, which can solve quadratic equations. But you do have kids learning. My daughter's in class 10. She's learning quadratic equations on paper because she has to try and understand the concept. Okay. So, and I wouldn't want to take that away, that just because, you have calculators which can add numbers, you've got to figure out how to do certain things. Now, the threshold of that can maybe change over time. I think we will be seeing a lot more technology used, and especially this is just early days. This is just individuals interacting through a certain very rudimentary interface right now. They're going to allow API connects. That means it will allow it to connect to all kinds of apps on your phone and maybe other websites and so on. That is when you'll really have problems figuring out trying to understand whether it was AI generated, generative AI generated, or it is an actual thing, or it's a human. But I think customer service, for example, could actually do wonders with this.
Okay, so customer service gets replaced. I don't know. I still want to speak to someone on the other line, on the end of that line, instead of the many options they ask you to go through. That seems like an unending nightmare. Nikhil Pahwa wants to come in. Yes, Nikhil.
So I still don't know why they taught us log tables in school, because I've never used them since, right? But if I don't have to plot log tables and I can just be taught how to interpret them, that's what I want. Right? So that's the learning that I think is important. No, I've never used log tables since. That's just a basic short point I wanted to make.
Okay. Yes, Meeta wanted to come in.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that on a very practical basis. At the current level of ChatGPT 3, we can have students asking ChatGPT 3, I don't understand quadratic equations really well. What should I be reading to understand this better? If I want to visualize it, how can I work my way through this? Teachers can ask, I have a visual learner. I have a learner who has XYZ learning disabilities. How can I design my lesson to be able to help them visualize quadratic equations? These are very practical, immediate.
But what is the quality? What is the quality of those responses, Lloyd, Matthias? The one part we're not talking about is that nothing on ChatGPT, and they say that themselves on their first page. There's no guarantee of it being authentic. It could be biased. It's just a collective mishmash of what everyone is putting in. I mean, you might ask these questions, but you don't know if the answer has any value or worth.
Fair point, Tamanna. I think, like you said, that it's a collective mishmash. But I think really what the real test is over time is it gets richer with greater usage. And as Ms. Sengupta pointed out, I think the whole focus on education and usage is going to be how do you interpret it for better use, right? The machine is going to get smarter, the responses are going to get smarter, but really understanding the real dimensions is what is going to take the real human interface. The other point I really want to caution and come back into some of the worries is that while it can really make things efficient, improve responses, take off very normal mundane work, I think issues that have a little open interpretation is when it becomes difficult. I think Prashanto inferred briefly to the fact that you can actually therefore now, or I think Nikhil said it, you could actually merge voices, you can create virtual reality, you can create deep fakes, you can use a particular image, you can change the person's voice, you can have him completely lip sync. I think in this age where information is free flowing with the kind of things that we see in WhatsApp forwards, I think some of the usage of this can get into slightly problematic areas. I think that's when the issue will come in, puts a bit of an ethical filter on who uses it right and who uses it wrong, right? The ChatGPT can do anything, but it depends on what kind of usage it is put to. And that can create certain real problems in society.
We have to understand on how big this is going to get from the matter of fact that companies are investing so much money in this. Microsoft has invested a lot in ChatGPT's parent company, OpenAI. Google wants something like that. There are, businessmen right now around the world figuring out what to do with this technology. Nikhil Pahwa, what are the real-life use cases? Apart from a slightly more sophisticated chatbot on the other end, when you're trying to, figure out a bill or return an item to a store or something like that, what else can you do with this? Why is everyone so excited? How is this going to change my everyday life?
So Tamanna, I think the highest end use case of AI that's still being worked on is basically driving. If cars learn how to drive themselves, would we need to learn how to drive? But what's exciting about ChatGPT is that everybody can use it. It's not a car being programmed to drive. It's basically you can use it to write full emails. Someone was joking that they wrote a sick leave letter to their office in the form of Shashi Tharoor's writing. So at one level it's fun, but it's being used to generate blogs. It's being used to generate articles, marketing text. It's being used to generate dialogue in TV shows. It's being used to generate songs, poetry, for brainstorming, for ideas. I know founders who are fundraising who've sort of tried to create elevator pitches using ChatGPT for their companies. It's being used, for example, for design. So if you want a particular mood, you give the dimensions of the room, you give some specifications. Not ChatGPT, but other AI software is being used for that. Being used for writing emails. It can be used to summarize emails that might be too verbose. There's just so much one can do with the amount of marketing use cases. LinkedIn is full of people with presentations pointing towards AI tools and marketing use cases for AI. So I think we're just at the beginning of this, and as more and more people start using it, it will only get better.
You're a backer,
with time.
Nikhil? You're completely unabashedly, with no ifs and buts, backing ChatGPT and cheering it on?
Absolutely.
Okay. Are you, Prashanto?
No, with reservations. Its most powerful use, I think, is in actually generating code. And the ultimate sentient form of, those dystopian supercomputers is when they can create themselves. So it can generate a lot of code. It can generate malicious code. So I think they'll have to gradually put in systems to teach it right from wrong. There are already rules, but you can bypass those rules by not telling it that what you're generating is a system to hack maybe AIMS or the Indian Medical Network or whatever it is, but doing bits of code which look innocuous and so on. So it has to really figure out the legality, and the legality changes by jurisdiction. So it's the global system that has to be put into place. But generating code is an extremely powerful thing, where at the top level, you can just tell it what you want to do, and it will begin to generate code for you without your actually knowing much code yourself or any code yourself.
Wow, I mean, don't take away the jobs of the coders. They are the shining stars of Indian employment.
For all AI, Tamanna, I think we'll have to go back to Asimov's laws of robotics, that you may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being
this is looking like the first scene of a Spielberg movie, which is perhaps not going to end very well. Lloyd is laughing. Lloyd, are you cheering on, or do you have reservations?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's very, very positive. I think it's a great step forward. My only, like I said,
And I seem to have lost his line.
We have an ethical dimension to
right.
kind of to hold it in check.
All right. So we need an ethical dimension. Meetasengupta, what's your verdict?
Completely agree with the ethical issues, but let's also remember that so far, this is only about convergent thinking. It is only about what has happened in the past. It cannot create a future. Anything that is about creating new research, new knowledge, which every single PhD student has to create, candidate has to create, that you still need humans for. So we still are about creating the future. This can only create cohesion with the past.
Okay.
And convergence with the past.
All right. So I'm going to use the ChatGPT to wrap up this conversation and thank all my guests and viewers in the style of Shashi Tharoor, which is what made it viral for the Indian audiences. Let's see what comes up. All right, there you have. I have my script for you. So I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all of our esteemed guests and viewers for gracing us with your presence and for taking the time to tune in. Thank you, ChatGPT, for writing my scripts, at least for today, while I say thank you to this panel and to the viewers. But we have a lot more after this break. So thank you to all of you. On the other side, the unruly passengers strike again. This time it's 2 who are deboarded from a SpiceJet flight. We come back and tell you what exactly happened.